Hi, caregivers. I'm Donna Jackson, the Adult Caregivers Coach, and this is the Curated Caregiver Podcast. We are welcoming today Jamie Lyell, who is with AARP. He is an expert with all things Social Security. And the last time we had Jamie, he presented to us on Social Security retirement benefits. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, please go back and listen. There was a ton of great information that he shared with us. And today we're expounding upon the Social Security realm. And our session is entitled SSDI, Benefits and Burdens, the Caregivers Edition. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, happy to see you again. So, Jamie, we would love for you to walk us through your slide deck, and I'm going to throw out some provocative questions that I've gotten from caregivers around this very topic. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Donna. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us and allowing me to be here for this virtual event. Happy to talk about the legacy, evolution, and just the future of one of the most impactful achievements in American history, which is Social Security. So welcome. And I would like to just start, just if it's your first time being here with me. I do love educating on Social Security at AARP because it does give me the chance to empower our members with the knowledge they need to navigate their benefits. Ensuring fairness and understanding in Social Security is crucial. And being part of AARP allows me to make a positive impact on the lives of those who have contributed so much to our society. And I do like to make sport references. So just this sport reference for myself. So Social Security is the ultimate baton pass. Each generation handing off security and dignity to the next. So next, I want to just begin with going back to the 1930s. The Great Depression had left millions of older Americans in poverty. And in response, President Franklin Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act on into law on August 14th of 1935. It was a groundbreaking moment, creating a promise of income security for retirees. And this was the beginning of a new age of retirement that will become a cornerstone of American life. And in the fabric of society, few institutions have woven themselves as deeply into American life, such as Social Security. Now, over the decades, Social Security has evolved to meet the changing needs of Americans. In 1939, benefits were extended to dependents and survivors. In 1950, the first cost of living adjustment was introduced, an increase of 77%.
Wow.
And in 1960, disabilities, which we're here to talk about today, were expanded in 1961. And the early retirement age at 62 became an option. In 1972, automatic COLA was established to be on pace with inflation to ensure benefits kept pace. Now, in 1983, facing a funding crisis similar to what we're facing in the future, President Reagan signed reforms that included raising the retirement age and taxing benefits for the higher income recipients. Then in 1993, President Clinton increased the taxable portion of benefits to those with higher incomes. These changes reflect how Social Security has adapted to economic realities while maintaining its core mission. Now, as we look to the future, we must acknowledge the challenges the 2025 Trustees Report estimated that full benefits can be paid until 2034. After that, payroll taxes would only be able to cover about somewhere around 80% of scheduled benefits. This doesn't mean Social Security will disappear, but it does mean that we need solutions. Here at AARP, we are actively engaging in shaping those solutions, whether it's strengthening payroll tax base, adjusting benefit formulas, or ensuring fairness. Well, we are committed to protecting Social Security for current and future generations. Now, our role, AARP's role in advocacy, AARP is committed to Social Security, began with our founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews, who believed in dignity and independence and purpose for older Americans. And since then, AARP has been a powerful voice in protecting Social Security from cuts, opposing privatization, and advocating for fair COLAs, those cost of living adjustments. We have mobilized millions of members to educated the public and work with lawmakers to ensure Social Security remains strong, whether it's defending against harmful proposals or pushing for long-term solvency. AARP continues to be a champion for older Americans. And as far as today, Social Security is the largest source of income for most retirees. According to a recent survey in 2025 from ARP, about 80% of households rely on Social Security as a source of retirement income, and roughly 1 in 4 households depend on it for 90% or more of their income. And Social Security does provide a guaranteed inflation-adjusted benefit that brings peace of mind to millions of Americans. Social Security enjoys broad support across all age groups, actually, with 90% of respondents saying Social Security is important to their retirement security. So not just for older adults, but for all generations. Now, as we look towards the future, we must acknowledge, of course, again, that challenge of that trustees report of benefits being paid in full until 2034. And before I get in that, I'll stop for any questions Donna might have for me. Before I get into the principles for protecting Social Security and some of the options Congress has to keep Social
Okay.
Security strong.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. So um, that funding gap that's funded until 2034.
Yes.
What what is happening right now in terms of um, pushing that out further, and what happens if there isn't a solution, a viable solution, or a solution that is accepted by those who are in the position to keep it going or not keep it going? Like, what are we faced with uh, if it goes away, and what does it look like? Is there an opportunity for it to remain the way it's being funded now without any changes? Like, I guess it's like the gauntlet has been thrown down, right? So
Yeah.
what are we faced with the decision there?
Yeah. So first, I want to point out that Social Security won't go away. It is a pay-as-you-go system. So I pay, you pay, we all pay, for the most part. And with that, as long as the employees and the employer that matches what we as employees put into Social Security, it will be there for us in the future. The issue is that if the Congress doesn't act by 2034, that it will only be able to pay out about 80% of scheduled benefits. And what that means is if you're receiving, let's say, 1,000 a month, and that's what you've earned, that's what you've paid those FICA taxes to, that thousand that you're entitled to will then be changed to $800. And
Mhm.
it most likely will be grandfathered in um, with those that aren't at retirement age as of yet, and their formula might be changed. But there are a lot of
Wow.
options
Okay.
out there.
Okay. No, that's good to know. And um, question that just came into my mind is about who's eligible. And I don't know if you're going to talk about that before we get to the SSDI part. Are you going to talk
Yeah.
about the eligibility of Social Security?
I can talk about that now since we're on
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So to be eligible for Social Security retirement specifically,
Mhm.
um, as a worker, the earliest age you can claim Social Security is 62. The latest age you can claim is 70. Um,
Mhm.
After 70, is no reason to wait after 70. You haven't reached the max. But each month, from 62 up until your full retirement age, which would be 66 or 67, up until 70, each month makes a difference on how much you will receive
Wow.
for the rest of your life. But not just only you, but also your dependents,
Mhm.
if you have any children or grandchildren that will claim, or if your spouse outlives you, if you claim early, it could affect how much your spouse might receive if they
Mhm.
file for survivor benefits. So a spouse, a worker, children, um, grandchildren, um, and also if a parent relies on their child that is receiving Social Security and can prove that they're receiving more than 50% of support from that child, they can also claim on that child's work record as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. So let's bust a myth for some folks out there in
Okay.
terms of when we say who is eligible. Are only US citizens eligible to receive Social Security insurance?
Right. That is not true. We all, well, most workers all pay taxes. And if you're paying taxes, you're paying FICA taxes, and that's going into your Social Security and Medicare. That all once you pay us X amount of years for Social Security retirement or disability, you are eligible once you put earned enough credits and paid enough into the system. So even though you're not a U.S. citizen, if you're paying taxes and you're paying those FICA taxes to Social Security, that can still have you eligible to receive these benefits, which is a plus for everyone. The more people who pay into the system, the more that that is there to help strengthen that fund for all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. That is so good to know. And just thank you. I know lots of people are unsure about that and just, are not even confident in asking the question. So thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'll get back to the presentation and come back for some more questions. Now, here at AARP, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. So we do have these guiding principles to help fight to protect Social Security in alignment with our mission. As you see here on the slide, that Social Security should have long-term solvency, prove a stable foundation for retirement, protect those most in need, and ultimately address economic and demographic changes. Should continue to reward us that work and pay those taxes. Ensure that workers' payments are clearly defined and they cannot be outlived. Protected against inflation with those COLA adjustments, and protect current beneficiaries and those who are near retirement.
Jamie, when you say they cannot be outlived, um, what do you mean by that?
Yes. So when you receive your Social Security, it is what the payment you will receive for the rest of your life. So it's very important to make that decision, that one-time decision versus 62, your full retirement age, or 70 if you can, if you can afford to wait that long. But you do not. We want Social Security to continue to be there for those in retirement. If they live to 90 or 100, you should still be able to receive that payment that you're entitled to.
Yes, excellent. Thanks.
You're welcome. With that, now there are five possible solutions to protect Social Security. Now, as I consider these possible solutions, I want you to keep in mind that not likely one solution will fully fund Social Security. Just as I stated back in the 1980s, it was more likely that Congress will arrive at a combination of all or some of these solutions. And AARP is calling for Congress to ensure that the legislation to adjust Social Security go through its regular legislative process and not be done as any part of any debt reduction efforts. And it is important that the process of looking at solvency option is transparent as possible for the public. So with the first solution number one, eliminate or raise the wage cap. You might see this quite often. I see we have the 2025 number there. So let me just explain that wage cap means, so in 2025, that just recently passed, Social Security taxes are only paid on the first 176,100 of wage earnings. This threshold is called the taxable maximum or tax max. Any earnings above this taxable maximum are not subject to Social Security payroll tax. That means that people who make $1 million stop paying into Social Security at the end of February every year. Various
Woo.
proposed, yeah, Yeah. Um, Various proposals will help close the shortfall by either removing this cap altogether or setting it higher to capture the large amount of wage growth above the cap. Most of these proposals would increase payments to reflect those of higher earners' contributions, but at a lower rate of return.
Mm.
So, what's the potential impact of this option on the funding gap? It might fall anywhere between 30% to 70% of that gap. And I'll go over the pros and cons of this solution. One big pro for this one is that removing or increasing the cap would significantly increase the revenue for Social Security, potentially closing a large portion of the funding gap. And it could extend the solvency of Social Security for several decades at least. But it does come with its cons, two to be exact. First, it's a partial solution. Eliminating or increasing the cap alone would not fully solve Social Security's long term solvency issues. In addition, without corresponding changes to payments, these increased contributions at the high end would result in a very large Social Security check for high income earners. Solution two, we can increase the payroll tax, is another popular one you might have seen. The second solution is the proposal to increase that FICA tax, raising both not only the employer, but the employee shares of the payroll tax. Employees uh, and employers each pay 6.2% payroll tax on that first 176 100,000 of annual wages, and that's the number for 2024. For 2026, I believe it's 184, approximately. Now, all
Mm.
variants of this proposal would phase in and increase over time and increase both the employer and the employee share of the payroll taxes. Um, Now, the potential impact of this option on the funding gap would increase the taxes 1 to 2% and might fill anywhere from 25 to 50% of the gap, but definitely has pros and cons for this one as well. One of the biggest pros is that raising the payroll tax would significantly increase the funds available for Social Security, helping close that funding gap. And also, since payroll taxes are paid by both 183 million current employees and their employers, a relatively small increase in payroll tax for both employees and employers would have a significant positive impact on Social Security's finances. One of the biggest cons for this one is probably one that you're probably already thinking. Um, Taxes have an impact on the economy. So higher payroll taxes could reduce disposable income for workers and increase labor costs for employers, potentially impacting economic growth and employment. And that could be significant bipartisan political opposition to increasing payroll taxes because a lot of people don't want to pay more taxes.
Right.
Um, so all
Mm.
workers and their employers, even if only on higher earners, could be a lot of opposition for this. Now, three, you can raise the full retirement age. The full retirement age is 67 for those born in or after 1960. So they could raise the full retirement age from 68, 69, 70, and keep the minimum retirement age at 62, which is important. It
Mm.
will still be preserved because it's important for those who do very laborious work and have health or caregiving challenges. So,
Right.
however, for every year the full retirement ages increase, payments for people who do claim at 62 will be cut roughly by 6%. So, additionally, because of the long phase in time, savings of the program would likely not take effect for several decades with this option.
Yeah. And, even with all three solutions, there are aspects of each of them that are a little controversial, you know,
Yes.
because of the intent of this fund from the very beginning and how it's eroding over time, how things have impacts, socioeconomic impacts, all types of impacts have eroded the true intent of it. So there's a lot of challenging work that you all are doing there at AARP. And, you know, man, it's really amazing. And I know in the work that I do with my caregivers and in this season of life, it is just wonderful to know that there's advocacy for these types of things for the very people who mean the most to us are in the most vulnerable and challenging season of their lives, and that you all every day are going to bat for this very population. So just so grateful, Jamie, that this is an industry that your heart is in this, because
Yeah.
we find in this caregiving space that a lot of people come to this space by necessity and not because their heart is in it. You know, their motives may not be pure, but yeah, kudos on that. And thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as for solution three, the pros of this one is gradually increasing the full retirement age will significantly extend the solvency of Social Security trust fund by reducing the numbers of years of payments paid out, increasing the reduction of payments for early retirement. But the cons of this is that raising the full retirement age effectively reduces payments for all new retirees because they would have to wait longer to receive payments or accept reduced payments if they did want to retire early. Now, while life expectancy has increased overall, you'll see in the news, life expectancy has increased for Americans in the recent decades, but not everyone is living longer, especially those with lower incomes. Moreover, not everyone can work longer, including those in physically demanding jobs. So that's a really big con of this one as
Yeah. So I understand when you said that um, if we raise the retirement age, that the fund itself would be less. I get that part, but why would new folks who are retiring, why would have to wait longer if we are keeping the minimum retirement age at 62?
And that's a great question. So the minimum requirement age is 62. It is the minimum, but I don't have the chart on this specific presentation, but you're talking a difference of possibly $2,000 to $2,500 approximately on how much you'll be missing out every month for the rest of your life by claiming at 62. So by
Um,
raising the full retirement age to 68 to 69, so say for example, someone born 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. That means you can retire, you can work as much as you want with no reductions, and this is specific for retirement. Um, you will be able to make as much as you have earned. If the full retirement age is 68 or 69, then that means now instead of waiting till 67, you'll have to wait till 68 or 69. And depending on the type of job you have, doing that job at 68 or 69 can be a real challenge.
okay. Okay. Wow.
And I won't go too into the other two as far as too much.
Yeah.
But solution four, you can reduce the payments for higher earners. Social Security is set up so that even those uh, individuals with lower wages receive Social Security payments overall. They get a larger portion of their contributions back in retirement than they do with those in higher incomes. So some proposals would change payment formula to return even less money proportionally to those who earned more during their lifetimes. But with that one, and this filling the gap of 15 to 30%, one pro of this one be by reducing payments for those who are less dependent on Social Security. These significant savings can be achieved without impacting quality of life. But the cons of this is that reducing or especially eliminating payments for high income earners might be seen as unfair by some, potentially undermining Social Security's popularity as an earned payment and potentially leading to public resistance.
Wow. Yeah.
And the last one, solution five, you might have seen this one. Use other funding, money from the US general fund, other forms of income such as investments, invest in private market and use the returns to help pay payments. Um, so for this one, the pro of this one, using the general fund would provide a quick source of funding for Social Security without Congress having to make a politically difficult choice of raising taxes or cutting payments. But the con of this is diverting money from the general fund would increase the federal deficit or reduce funding for other programs that's
Mhm.
here in the United States, or possibly both. Um, and that's just for the 5 solutions. I do want to highlight a tool that we have available. Your questions answered. I highlighted this on the previous virtual education webinar that we've done. But your questions answered is free. We can go to answers.aarp.org/social security to use this free tool to ask questions that you may have that you can't get the answers to. The good thing about this one is if you can't find your answer, there's a link at the bottom where it says ask an expert, and that email will come to me or one of my colleagues and we'll respond to you
Oh,
via email.
that's fantastic. So now that I know that you're behind that mailer,
Yep.
I know that it's actually not going into a hole somewhere and somebody is actually, receiving
Yep.
those. That's excellent.
Yep. It's an inbox, and we just recently released, I don't have a picture of it on this next slide, but we recently released Ask AARP AI agent, which basically searches through our articles and things that we release. It's not Chat GPT or anything. So it searches through our database of articles to get you what you need and provide you a human-like answer. And that lives directly on the Social Security landing page for AARP. It's right at the top. You can do the exact same thing, similar to this, but you can go there and type in your question, and the AI will help you. It can answer your Social Security and actually your Medicare questions as well. Retirement, disability, or SSI.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great.
And then as far as some resources, here, I want to just highlight some of these educational resources. You see the links here. To estimate your payments. Again, that YQA tool, your questions answered, educational webpage if you're looking. But you can also get involved in protecting Social Security in your state by visiting our advocacy page and making sure your voice is heard.
Very nice. Yeah.
Now, I will go into disability next. I know that's very important.
Yeah.
Let me jump to that slide really quickly here. Disability benefits. Now, for SSDI, for SSDI application to be approved, you must have an illness or injury that prevents you from working for at least a year or likely will cause death. You also must have worked for a period of time and paid Social Security taxes. Now, you can apply for online for SSDI through your My SSA, your My Social Security account, by telephone or in person currently. As of today, you can still do this in person. Social Security has a manual of a physical or mental health disorder that can qualify you as meeting the medical requirements for Social Security disability insurance. You can check out the Social Security Blue Book. That's, I believe, on their website, but you can be able to easily find that online for a listing of impairments. Now start the SSD process. A tip here: start it as soon as possible if you believe you qualify. So as of 2026, initial decision took longer than 7 months. And you have 60 days to request a reconsideration of the denial.
Jamie, I have a question here.
Yes.
So, how is it that children can get SSI or SSDI? Or is it SSI that they can get, or is it SSDI?
There is both. But for Social Security disability insurance specifically, a child under 18 can apply under their parents' Social Security or their work record. And as long as they are under 18 and they're a full-time student and the other qualifications that's needed. And the qualifications are similar to Social Security, retirement, and disability for a child to claim on any type of Social Security record. That's how they can claim. They also, if that also leads to a spouse being able to claim on a Social Security record as well. Definitely, if the spouse is helping taking care of that child, that's a legal child under the worker, because it can be for adopted children as well. Doesn't only have to be for, yeah.
Okay, that's great to know. You did mention that in terms of who can receive that benefit. Yes, okay, got it. Because I often hear children, and it confuses me because I was like, you think of someone older always,
Right.
SSI. it's like, well, how is this child getting it? But it's because they are getting it because their parent got it and maybe is deceased,
Right.
or injured, or both.
For disability, yeah, both
It could,
deceased. Those would
or
be survivor benefits. Yep.
right, or injured. Got it. Okay.
And I would like to, since we're on the topic, and I know a lot of others probably have this question, is what's the difference between SSDI and SSI?
Yes,
Now,
please.
yeah, the big picture difference. Now, they both provide disability benefits, but they are very different. Now, SSI is a needs-based program, so it's needs-based safety net, if you will. And SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, is based on a program based specifically on your work history. So for SSI, you don't have to work, but for SSDI, you do. So
Wow.
so you might
What?
think like who pays for it? Like if it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for SSI, general tax revenues pay for that. But for SSDI, that's those payroll FICA taxes that you see on your pay stub, which we didn't have to pay. Now, the maximum benefit is the same nationwide because it is a federal rate, so it's not based off of the states you live in either. And that actually brings me to a fun fact, if you will, that even if you do move abroad, as long as that country has that Social Security Act or agreement in place, you can still receive your payments even though you're no longer living in the United States.
Now that's very helpful, especially with a lot of people wanting to move to different countries these days.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. Thank
Yes.
you. As you're talking through this, and thank you for that, for contrasting SSDI with SSI, because that's huge. A couple of others that are like really confusing about Social Security disability insurance and Social Security insurance benefits. And let me know if you'll get into this, but since we're on this topic, what is the definition, or how do we should we understand the difference between being disabled versus being unable to do your old job?
That is a great question. I know that probably causes a lot of confusion for plenty of people. Now, Social Security defines disabled. Now, Social Security says a person is disabled only if the following are true. So, one, you have a medical condition, and that can be physical or mental. The condition is expected to last at least 12 months or result in death. And then three, the condition prevents you from doing your past work and any other substantial gainful work that exists in the national economy.
Interesting.
And that applies to both SSDI and SSI.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I thought there was some kind of trend out there where you might not be able to do your previous job, to your point, that might have been very physically or manual or very physically laborious. But could you do this other job over here, something you might not even be interested in or trained in, but doesn't require that physical exertion?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, so Social Security definitely asks. So it's a part of that process that they ask, given your age, your education, your skills, and medical limits, can you do any other job, even if it's less skilled, lower paying, part-time, or unappealing, and it's a job that you've never done before? If you can do any of those, then you're not disabled. But if you can't do any of those, then you're disabled under Social Security rules. That is
Wow.
the critical difference.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So
helpful.
if you can do any other job, even I guess if you were very
Mm.
skilled and a trades person, and now you can technically sit at a front desk somewhere, then they consider you not disabled.
Wow. And so last question here, because these are like the top three
Yeah.
questions that I hear a lot and that are super confusing for folks. So based on what you just said, that takes me to the issue of the continuing disability reviews and the
Yes.
point that the frightening fact that after jumping through all of the hoops, after doing everything that is required in order to qualify, and most times you don't qualify the first time and you have to keep going back, lots of administrative work, you get qualified and you might come up for one of these reviews, which tell me how frequently those are. And
Yeah.
in the review, those benefits can get taken away. Is that correct?
That is possible. And to our last point, I wanted to just give one real life example. That would be for the work that you can no longer continue to do. That would be someone similar, like a construction worker with a back injury. Completely
Mhm.
different work, maybe even completely different pay. But as far as for the continuing disability review, that CDR, it is a periodic review conducted by the Social Security Administration, again, to determine whether someone who receives SSDI or SSI still meets the definition of disability. So everyone receiving either one of these benefits are subject to these. Although how often, as you asked, occurs depends on whether SSA believes medical improvement is likely. So Social Security places beneficiaries into three different categories. So MIE, which stands for medical improvement expected. So that review is about 6 to 18 months. For
Um,
every 6 to 18 months, if you're under MIE, which is medical improvement expected.
got
Next
it.
is MIP, which stands for medical improvement possible, and that review is about every 3 years. And
Okay.
then the last is mine, MINE, medical improvement not expected. So your review would be about every 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different. And what happens
Interesting.
during these? You'll have a medical review. They'll check whether your medical condition has improved. If you can perform that substantial gainful activity, even if you don't like the job, like we spoke about. Um, and then for SSI recipients, only for SSI, SSA also reviews your income, your resources, and your living arrangements. And I will share a story, a real life story from an individual that attended one of my presentations. And her father passed, but left land for her and her other 15 siblings.
Wow.
Nothing was on the land. It was just land. It wasn't farmland. It wasn't a home on the land. It was just land.
Mm-hmm.
Social Security stopped her SSI payments because they stated that now that you have this land, you can find some way to make some money because of the resource that this offers now, that you can sell this and make some money. She couldn't possibly sell it for that much and split it across 15 people. But that's a real situation that could come up.
Oh my goodness. That's terrible. Wow. Wow. Thank you for that, man.
Yeah.
All right. And so, one of the things, as always, that we like to do is kind of focus on how these things apply to the caregiver, right? Because that's our focus, is the caregiver.
Yep.
So, as we move through the slides, uh,
I know my screen was changing. I'm trying to get my
yeah,
presentation up. Yes.
um, yeah, I want to make sure that we're kind of bringing it to the focal point of the caregiver. So, but keep going, Jane. This is really good.
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple more slides about disability, and I'll go right into the caregiver part, and how that applies. Now, while not required, you have the right for professional representation. I want everyone to know that in your dealings and applications with Social Security. So, and having such help has shown to boost chances of successful applications. There are attorneys out there um, that will help you with your claims at no cost of you. But what they'll do is that they will seek the money in the back end. So What that means is, in a real life example, if you have a underpayment that's due to you because Social Security took some time to get you your payments for your disability, you might have a lump sum of, let's just say, 50,000. The attorney will submit a fee agreement. You will know this before you put in for your Social Security, and they will basically get that payment from Social Security, minimizing that 50,000 maybe down to 42,000. That additional money will go to the attorney. You'll get the 42,000. So that is an option available for you, and that goes towards attorneys and representatives that help as well. That is a way to be registered with Social Security, with helping people with their claims and getting paid as well, even if you're not an attorney. Um,
Wow.
Many work on contingency basis, getting paid for your claim as it's approved, as I stated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all SSDI claims are subject to a waiting period for benefits. Earliest payments can start is 5 months from the date Social Security determined that your disability began, based on the medical evidence you provided. And after drawing benefits for 2 years, Social Security will automatically enroll you into that Medicare Part B, and that will come out from your Social Security payment
Mm-hmm.
before it's sent to you. But all of those awarded SSDI benefits in the last 10 years, nearly a third were applicants who appealed after that first amount.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And we
Can
talked about,
people,
yes.
I'm sorry. How successful have you seen folks trying to do this without professional assistance from an attorney or a representative?
Um, it's a case by case, really, because just because you don't have an attorney, you might have someone that's very knowledgeable, where you're seeking your health advice from, that might be familiar with what needs to be provided. Because when you're looking at Social Security disability, you can go in with one diagnosis, such as, let's just say, bipolar, but you might also have a second diagnosis, such as schizophrenia, and that can really improve your chances of getting your claim approved as well.
Oh, I
And if
see.
like the social worker you're working with, for example, is very knowledgeable and has helped people in the past, um, you might not need an attorney depending on your situation.
Mm.
So
Do
case by
you
case.
know? Yeah, that's interesting. Do you know if there are any like nonprofits who are out there who actually help people process these claims because you know getting professional help might not even be an option, especially because it's going to cut into this money that more than likely isn't enough anyway.
Yeah, I don't know any right off the top of my head right now.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say there are those out there. Look online, research.
Hmm.
I know if you're a DC resident, the leader of the elderly council for individuals in DC is there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, just look and see what's there in your state. But there are places that help individuals with their needs around Social Security
Okay, that's
claims.
good to know.
Yeah. And as far as the caregiver, because that's
Hmm.
definitely important, and getting paid, possibly you might have a question, how can I get paid as a caregiver? Can I get paid through Social Security? How does that work? Now, Social Security unfortunately doesn't pay caregivers directly, but beneficiaries, of course, may use that benefits to pay for the care. And now, whether that affects benefits depends on whether the person receives SSI or SSDI. So if a person receives SSDI, that's Social Security disability, that's based off of work, again, uh, that this is a simpler and safer scenario for them because they're just getting their Social Security monthly income, and then that beneficiary is paying the caregiver. That being a family member, a friend, or a professional aid. Social Security doesn't restrict how disability SSDI money is spent. So paying a caregiver does not reduce their benefits. That includes any uh, informal agreements, as long as the caregiver is not committing, of course, fraud, or
Hmm.
payments are voluntary and reasonable. Now, it's different if someone's receiving that SSI that's not based off of work. This is where it can kind of get complicated and risky. SSI is needs based, so money paid to a caregiver can be treated as countable income, in-kind support, and then this can reduce the SSI or cost of the overpayment if Social Security finds that out and then say that this individual now needs to pay us back. Paying for a caregiver informally may trigger benefit reductions. So free care, room, food, for example, can reduce SSI under the in-kind support rules. And then Social Security may question whether payments are wages or support. SSI recipients can pay caregivers, but it must be handled very carefully so it
Mhm.
doesn't stop them receiving what they're receiving.
Wow, that is really tricky. And it
Yeah.
also makes me think of, does this have anything to do with the program that's out there? I believe it's a federal program where a caregiver can get paid by the government to care for their elderly loved one.
And
Does
you're
this have,
wondering, mhm.
yeah, does this have, is this is not that, but
Yeah,
I,
that's completely different. Yeah, this
yeah,
is directly interacting with the individual and their caregiver,
okay,
and if they're paying them directly
right,
out of what they're receiving.
right.
Because if you're receiving SSI, that means it's needs based. You really, really need that money. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually never enough money.
Right,
Um,
correct.
so, but if Social Security sees, hey, you're receiving this, and now you're paying someone else for work, then that means you have the means. You don't need this income. But for disability,
Yeah,
you can spend that on whatever you want to spend it
good. Okay, all right. Yeah, and caregivers. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get some more resources for you all in terms of what that program looks like that I just referenced. There is a program where you as a caregiver can actually get paid to care for your elderly loved one. And, a lot of people feel some kind of way about that because they're thinking, this is my dad, my granddad, my uncle, my aunt who has cared for me all my life. And now I'm in a position to care for them. And it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good for me to be getting paid for it. But yeah, I'm going to try to bring in someone who speaks to that because there's caregiving. And if you're in the throes of it, it is not an easy thing to do, especially if you have other obligations, working full time, maybe still raising children. So your time doesn't get stretched, but the impact on you and your health and just the situation that you're in, it's very trying. So if there was a way for you to get some support, even if it's financial, we need to look at that and kind of be okay with it, especially if it's legal. It's not illegal. Yeah, want to talk more about that. That's been coming up a lot lately. All right, thanks, Jamie. I digress. Jamie, thank you so much. This has been really informative. And a segment that I've been wanting to bring back to the caregivers for a while now. So thank you for addressing some of those concerns that we see over and over, and actually offering a place for them to go on the AARP website where they can get answers to even more in-depth questions that they might have, and also know that like you might actually be the person who provides the answer, right? So you have a wealth of knowledge and are well suited for this. Um, Before we go, tell us about anything you might be working on, anything where um, us caregivers, can participate in things that you have going on that might also help support their journey.
Yes. So I recently finished the book. Hopefully that will be releasing Q1. The top 100 question and answers around Social Security. Um,
Very
Thankfully, I
nice.
got the byline. I'm happy about that one.
Yes.
But that's a short read. Each answer is about 1 to 2 paragraphs, so it can really be something that you can go back to as a resource guide over and over again. And it's a lot of that content is what's called evergreen. So even though you're reading it this year, it could still be relevant 5, 10 years from now. It's even a great gift to give to someone that might just want to freshen up on Social Security because they might be going through it, or a friend or a loved one is going through it
Yeah.
as well. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Mhm.
And outside of that, knowing how important caregiving is, my mom is a caregiver. She does work for a caregiving agency. She's been doing it for 30 years, even before they deregulated mental health in our country.
Mhm.
Um, so knowing that and seeing what she does and the passion and just helping others in the community, I started to inquire about starting my own in-home healthcare agency here in Maryland, placing those caregivers with families. Assisted living homes are so expensive.
Yeah.
So being able to help those and veterans as well um, with those caregiving needs so important. So that's probably one of my biggest projects for this year is getting that off the ground.
Jamie, oh my gosh. I know we've talked about it, but that last piece, wait a minute, you just brushed by that like that was nothing. Guys, did you hear what he just said? He said that he's working on getting some of the seniors who are in these assisted living facilities or needing to go to them, not necessarily the medical ones, but just a little more support, placed with families. That is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
anything that I can do to help out my community, I really want to do more in my community as I can, and then hopefully maybe
Fantastic.
in the next couple years, maybe I'll expand to the DC and Virginia area, the whole DMV. We'll see what happens.
Well, listen, congratulations. And you, again, like I meant, you are well suited for this. And thank you, Jamie. We really appreciate you when you come and educate us in all things uh, where AARP is on the cutting edge of this space. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.